Hey girl, welcome to the Win a Pageant podcast. I'm your coach, Alycia Darby, and today we are talking with David Van Maren. Now, David has been, say it again.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome. We're pumped to have him on the show. So the cool thing about David is he has been in the entertainment industry for 30 years. Ladies, this guy's brain is like a pot of gold, and we are going to open it up today and learn so much. I cannot wait for this. Okay, so 30 years in the entertainment industry. For the first part of that, he was actually in front of the camera, so he's got that talent experience. Then he actually created his own agency. So as an agent and as a personal manager, he was booking like thousands of jobs for athletes and models and artists, like musicians and all types of people, like celebrities. So this guy knows how to book a job. And as we all know, that can be very important. Okay, so you're wondering, well, why is he on a pageant podcast? So David, in 1999, David was asked to judge the Miss Washington USA pageant and the Miss Teen USA pageant in Washington State. And of course he did a fabulous job because he's in entertainment. He gets this stuff. And then so much so that they actually invited him to become the state director. Cool, right? Okay, then several years later, he actually became the director of Idaho. So then he had two. Then several years later, he became the director of Montana. And then again, most recently, Oregon. So now he is the co-executive producer and state director for 4 state preliminaries, state pageants in the Miss Teen and the Miss USA pageant. So cool. Okay, now, fun fact, David is also happily married to Maureen, who you met 2 weeks ago on the Win a Pageant podcast. And she's a doll as well. And they have a beautiful little son, 2 years old. So cute. Can't wait to meet him in person. Okay, and now the cool thing is that David now produces live shows, television, and red carpet events. So welcome to the Win a Pageant podcast, David. It is such a pleasure having you here.
Thanks so much. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So I have to know, in your experience with all this time in entertainment, I really am dying to just know, what does it take to be a success in entertainment? Talk about a loaded question, right?
Yeah, that is a loaded question. I think one of the biggest things is you have to have your own unique personality. A lot of people are trying to be like somebody else, and it simply doesn't work because there's already that somebody else. So what you want to do is have a unique you, be confident in who you are, and then just be happy, be friendly, be nice, be a great networker, and don't be that person that complains all the time. And then you're going to find success.
Wow. Okay, that was a little piece of gold you gave right there, which is don't be that person that complains all the time. Now, I can relate that to what I think it means, but I want to hear, what does that mean to you? Specifically in your world with your network and with people that you know, because we all know those people that just whine all the time, right? But why is that a barrier to success?
Probably the biggest reason is because who likes to hang around somebody that complains and moans? Nobody.
Yeah.
So why would you want to be that person?
Yeah.
So in this industry, if you want to be successful, you need to have a great team around you. And if you have a great relationship with that team, then you can be successful and have a long-term career.
Yeah, I love that. So who makes up the team? What's the best dream team? Who do you need to have on that?
Well, it can be quite the team. You want to have a theatrical agent, commercial agent. You might even have a hosting agent. Some celebrities have certain type of celebrity type of status representation. You've got a manager. You've got maybe a business manager on top of that. You've got a CPA. You've got an attorney. So it can be quite the team. You just want to make sure that you have really great, trustworthy people that are nice and fun to be around. And then, of course, you have to be nice.
Yeah, I love that because it really is a business. When you're speaking about somebody as a talent, they truly are their business. They've got to treat themselves as a professional. They've got to treat their work. They've got to grow it as a professional. Yep. But then they're also, as a business, just like in business, we've got the marketing team, we've got the accounting team, same type of thing, but it's all happens to be revolving around their talent, right?
That's right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
And everybody's working together in such a way where the goal is to be able to figure out ways to help promote you for a long-term career, not a quick get rich scheme. If there's something that comes up, let's say a theatrical agent comes up with a certain project, but it's not necessarily something that's going to help you long term, even though you may make a lot of money, is it the best decision to do that? Right. So, and same thing with a commercial agent. So as things come in, your manager helps you decide what you should or shouldn't do within the different opportunities that come up. So once you've got these different opportunities that come up, then you have to make a decision. Okay, is this going to help my long-term career?
Wow. It feels like you probably have a story in there, because I imagine you have lots of experience with this. Can you share about a time when you maybe had to make this difficult choice for yourself or for someone else?
As an example, when you've got maybe a certain person that has a opportunity to be on a soap opera, if that person's long-term goal is to be a film star, then is the soap gig worth it? You're going to get a contract role, maybe 3 years, and is that going to be worthwhile doing? And a lot of times people will just jump on it simply because, it's a job, and it's now, and I'm going to make some money, and I'm going to become a star. But is that going to be the best thing for your long-term career as a film star? Because a lot of times you'll get typecast as that person in that role. And so then it makes it a little bit more difficult, and sometimes a lot more difficult, in promoting you in other avenues and other projects.
Yeah. Can you explain that? Because I'm not sure that everyone understands what that means to be typecast as something based on one individual role. Elaborate on that a bit.
Sure. So typecast meaning, maybe let's say you're an individual with a really funny personality and kind of quirky, and you do that for 3 years, and then are you able to do serious drama roles in films, right? And a lot of time people have a hard time with that, so they may not cast you in that particular film. Yeah. So again, you just have to be really careful in the types of projects that you take up, and understand that there's a possibility of you being typecast. Yeah. So you got to really be a fine actress, and continue to work on your craft while also understanding that it could make it more difficult for you in film if that's your true goal.
Yeah, that's good. And I love what you're saying there, David, because that happens in every industry, right? That we are, especially someone who's extremely well talented, which I believe most pageant women that are performing at that level are very talented in multiple areas. And so when you're able to do something or many things, that doesn't mean you should. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And so you really do have to be mindful and stick to the long-term vision. And I love in the Bible, it says, without a vision, the people perish. And I believe that. Like, you've got to know where you're headed to, where you're going, so that when those other things come up that might want to take you off course, you can say no to those things in order to say yes to the long-term vision.
That's right. And oftentimes, I think a lot of people will seek out that certain celebrity because oftentimes they don't feel celebrated at home or celebrated by their friends. And what they need to understand is God celebrates them. So you don't have to go searching for celebrity anymore. You already are, right? You already have wealth. You already have riches. So what are you doing with those things? Don't be the person that buries your talent, but do something with what you've got. Don't sit on your assets. Do something with your assets.
Wow. Oh, preach, David. That was so good. Yeah, amen. And I believe you're right. And we see that oftentimes in pageantry, that a lot of times women just want to win to prove it. I get really sad by women that say, I want to win because I want to prove it to everybody. I want to prove that I can do it. And they see that crown as the proof that they can overcome something, where it's totally backwards. Instead, you need to overcome that in order to be given the crown. The crown is a great responsibility, and it, like in many areas of life, when you want authority, you have to also take that responsibility, and that comes through that growth and that kind of perseverance. So could you share more with me about, maybe you have an example of somebody who's done a really great job of kind of embodying that idea of being celebrated by God, and how they've allowed that to propel their career versus seeking those little gems in the world, you know? Do you have an example of someone that's done that, or how would you recommend someone search for that on their own?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is that what you do in secret will be revealed in public, right? So if you're one of those types that really wants to do something significant, you want to do something where you, I guess, get noticed, if you work hard in secret, if you do those things in diligence, if you do those things where no one else sees you, and I'll give you an example. Let's say that you want to be a pastor. If you do it in front of an auditorium with nobody in it, and you just stand there and you preach and you work at your craft, then when it's the right time, you'll do a great job. You'll become a pastor. You'll do the things that you want to do. But same thing goes for everything else in life. Whatever that you want to do, you got to practice that craft and get better and better and better until at some point you're ready to really go at it. And, God's timing is always perfect. So I think the biggest thing is that you have to stay humble and continue to work and hone on that craft, whatever that it might be.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And, the words that you're saying, what you're describing is not something that people have never heard of before. But the most difficult thing to do is actually implementing it, right? And what you're describing, I love that picture of what you said of like an empty auditorium. And I remember when I was competing in pageantry, my first time at a state pageant, the stage was available for anyone that wanted to practice. And I was like, oh my gosh, I better get my shoes on. I better get my dress. Like, I better get out there because everyone's going to be out there practicing. I got out on the stage, not a single girl there. I was like, you're kidding me. Where is everybody? Like, this is the time where practice happens. And, when I look back on that moment, I realized, like, it's exhausting. When you are tired and when you're, like, beat down and you're like, oh, that's the last thing, or pride takes over. I've got this. I'll be fine. I've done this a million times before, or whatever. When those types of things, when those stories start happening to us, that's when we've got to overcome and say, look, I've got to still practice. I've still got to show up for this. I've still got to go in because that's going to be where, as you mentioned, you're rewarded eventually in public. When you do those things, when you put in the work, even when it's terrible and it's so hard and you have to be patient and it's, girls, when you're listening right now, wherever you're at, I want you to know that your reward is coming, but don't stop the work wherever you're at. You've got to keep going. You do. Right? David, tell me about a time when you actually witnessed somebody do this. When you witnessed somebody stay in the trenches. Maybe it was one of your clients or maybe it was a pageant contestant and you witnessed her stick with it and come out on top.
Yeah, sure. There is a great example. I noticed this young woman when I was a judge, and she was just a fighter, high integrity. She was always willing to work however hard she needed to go after her dreams and her goals. And of course, she didn't get everything that she wanted, obviously, and no one does, especially the first time. Yeah. And she persevered and she persevered and she kept at it and she kept at it. And there was times when I know for a fact that she wanted to quit. She had so many doubts, and at a certain point, she had stuck with it so hard, and it was like, it's sort of like when you're grabbing a hold of something and you will not let go no matter what, right? If you're out on a buoy in the middle of the ocean, you're not going to let go of that thing, right? And that's what she did. And as she continued to persevere and work through those dark times, she finally came through the other side. And when she did, she was blessed in ways that just are pretty astronomical. She was blessed in ways with family, financially, with her career and whatnot. And I don't want to say too much. Okay. All I can say is that she was highly successful and probably more successful than most people on planet Earth. Wow. As to her success level. Wow. And again, she had to go through all the dark times, all those times when she thought, what, can I really make it this next step? Can I hold on long enough? Can I continue to push just a little further? Because, man, I am so ready to quit. It's so hard. It's so difficult. And I think during those times, in those dark moments, that your character comes out and you build upon that character. And as you do, you become stronger. You're able to withstand more. You gain wisdom, of course. And through each one of those trials and errors and failures, you just gain a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, to a point where finally, when God says it's time, wow, you explode. Sometimes God lets you go left because he understands how powerful you are when you come back right. Wow. Right? And so I think that's the most important thing, is that you have to understand that it's not easy. So in pageantry, Uh, it's tough going. You got to work at it. You got to put it in time, effort, and energy, physically, mentally, emotionally. One of the areas that I think a lot of young women don't really think about is their hair and their makeup, and the way that they're overall styled. Those are important items. Sometimes, gosh, the way that I look and the way that I think that I do my makeup, I think it looks great, but it's not always the best way to look, right? Based upon maybe some other third opinions. And so I always suggest get opinions from people, people that are in the industry. Hey, do you think my makeup application is right? Do you think my styling is right? Do you think that, physically, mentally, emotionally, that I'm prepared? And be prepared for truthful, real answers and feedback by people that you feel like will give you that kind of feedback.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and you're right, because it's love. When you trust someone and they give you that true feedback, they're loving you. And that's like such a beautiful, because they believe in you and they want the best for you. So if you can receive that, open up your heart to receive, which is kind of like difficult to do and terrifying because you're like, oh, don't say it. I think that sometimes we do sort of know that maybe my makeup application isn't right, for example, because maybe we've never actually learned. So if you've never really gotten a lesson, you don't have that level of confidence. And if you're second guessing yourself on any area, that level of confidence is going to go down. So you need to get people's feedback. You have to get what they're saying so that you can have the confidence of doing it in a way that is aligned with what the industry is looking for. I think a lot of women, I know, and even in my experience, when I first started competing, I did it the way I wanted to do it because I wanted to win for who I am. I was like, no, this is who I am. I just want to be and like later I realized like, no, just because I don't know how to apply makeup, that doesn't mean I should win because of who I am as a person who doesn't know how to apply makeup, right? Like I needed to step into the role of learning how to apply makeup, right? You got to get those skill set. You got to elevate yourself to a place where you're now ready for the responsibility that comes with like everything else. So David, let me go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, and I hear sometimes, well, I don't want to change who I am, or makeup does not change who you are. Your haircut and style does not change who you are. Having a tattoo or not having a tattoo does not change who you are. So I think that's so important just for women and just people in general to understand is that who you are is not about just makeup and things like that. It has nothing to do with it. And so you want to be the best you want to present yourself the absolute best. And so what does that mean? Makeup application, are you physically healthy, mentally, emotionally prepared, things like that. So
absolutely. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Okay, you mentioned tattoos. So let's get real here. As a judge, as a producer, what is your perspective of women on stage, on a pageant stage with visible tattoos? What do you think? Sure. Should they cover them or not?
If I'm a contestant, what do I do to get the judges to notice me, and especially my eyes, because that's where, that's what people really see you is through your eyes. So how do I get them to notice me, my eyes, and so that I can talk to them through my eyes? If you've got a big tattoo on your stomach, for example, and you're in the swimsuit portion of the competition, I can guarantee you that the judges are going to be checking out your tattoo and not you. So why don't you, if you want them to notice you and not notice just your tattoo, but notice your eyes, then it might not be such a bad to cover it up. If it's something that's small, it may not even matter. Yeah. But if it's really big, then I think oftentimes it can kind of distract the judge. Yeah. I'm not saying that it completely will, but there's a higher likelihood of.
Yeah. I like that. I had a mentor once that told me that image is not really important until it distracts from quality. And if we are able to present ourselves with quality in our image, then it's fine. It's no big deal. No one's even going to it's when we do something cuckoo or when we have something that's distracting from the quality and the essence of who you are. So I like the way that you describe that because it's like, okay, so if your tattoo, for example, or anything, piercing or whatever, is a major distraction from who you are and your essence, then why don't you cover it up just like you would anything else, that you would want to cover up so that it doesn't distract. That's good. Good one, David. Good. Thank you. So what is the thing that women do in pageantry that makes you just be like, ugh, I wish they would stop doing this thing? Do you see a pattern or something that you could just speak life into someone right now and give them that, hey, stop doing this or do more of this other thing?
Sure. Um, I would say one thing is women typically forget to really smile the entire time when they're on stage, number one.
Mm.
Number two, posture. I don't know how many times I've seen women with bad posture on stage. It's just, it amazes me.
Yeah.
And that's so important because it just shows you confidence. You know, even if there's no change in confidence level, it looks like you have more confidence when you have really great posture. Um, and I think so many contestants get so tied up in their gowns that if they don't feel like their gown is just absolutely 100% perfect, it shows in their body, it shows in their performance. And sometimes you got to get above and beyond that. I know contestants that have gotten gowns that were very inexpensive, less than $100,
Wow.
and have won state pageants in the USA system.
Wow.
And so if that's the case, it's not about the gown, it's about you. Do you have to get a $10,000 gown? Of course not.
No.
Do you have to get a $2,000? No, of course not.
Yeah.
You've got to be the one that the judges are judging you on, not the gown, not the outfits, not anything else. It's you, right? So you've got to be the best you that you can possibly be.
Yeah.
How, and how do you get to that point? Get good feedback, get good, honest feedback by people that you trust. If you can get help on, okay, well, I've got thin lips, so then how do I get a look so that I can have thicker looking lips? If you've got narrow set eyes, how do I apply my makeup so that it looks like I have, not narrow eyes?
Yeah.
If I've got deep inside eyes, what colors do I use? So there's so many things that you have to think about and get experts' opinions on how to help you with those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and you're right. That's beautiful, David. First of all, let me just honor you for having some very specific things that women can do, because oftentimes I think in pageantry it's a mystery. Like, well, what are they really looking for and stuff? But we know that beauty, it is still a beauty pageant, right? So it's like,
That's right.
well, we're not, hiring you to be the librarian at the school or something. Like, this is a beauty pageant, so you got to be beautiful.
Yeah.
And the way that our culture defines beauty is by certain things. So if you just know what those things are and you discover, okay, you just got to crack that code and then use that as a veil for yourself so that you're not hiding who you are as a human and the call in your life to change the world, but rather just step into that beauty, that power that's going to let you change the world, So I like what you're describing. And it's so funny talking to you because so often when I speak to women, we talk a lot of, it's very like, it's like a really big deal. Like pageants are a really big deal. But then it's so cool how you're just breaking it down. Like, listen, okay, if you got narrow eyes, just figure out how to get bigger eyes. And if you've got just do that. I love that perspective and leave it to a man to just be like, look, sister, here's what you got to do. Just boom, boom,
That's
boom.
right.
And you're right, removing that emotional component of but it's not me anymore. When we remove that and you're just like, listen, it's a game. We got to play. How do we win?
That's right.
Do this, this, and this. Love that, David. Very good. Good. So what are you most looking forward to this year? I know you've got a big expo coming up. Maybe you can talk a little bit about the expo first.
Sure. At the expo, we've got coming up March 25th, and it's basically just bringing in some industry experts with interview coaching and gowns, walking with Lou Sierra, and some others that are just at the top of their game. And we bring them to this location, and we have people come in if they want to learn from the industry's best. Your walk is going to be critically important, the way that you show your confidence through your walk. Your interview skills obviously are going to be huge. And so, we have Jorge coming in, and he's one of the best in the industry. So if you can get to this event, it's a great place to come learn, grow, and get some really good, honest feedback, and hopefully will help you in your performance.
Yeah, and meet some other pageant sisters.
Absolutely.
It's fun to meet other women.
And this is open to all pageant systems, and even outside of the pageant. If you just want to learn and grow and have some really great interview skills, this is a great place to come.
I love that. That's so cool. Good. So, and then tell me what's coming up this year for you. Like, what are you excited about? What's happening lately?
Well, we've got pageants, of course.
Lots of them.
And lots of them. And then we work on a bunch of other projects. We work we're working on some shows, and possibly in pitching some shows that we're currently working with some production stuff on. So I don't want to talk too much about it, but
okay, we'll keep
there's
that.
some things
We'll
that
keep
we're
that.
working on. Yeah,
Cool.
that's pretty fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, because I think this is something that could be helpful for women listening too. When a woman wins your pageant, do you have any say in, because some people would think like, oh, I have to win his pageant because if I win his pageant, he's going to get me into all the movies. So tell me what do you really do in that kind of way, if anything at all? How do you help women break into the industry or not?
Give them honest feedback. So again, it's one of those things where, let's say somebody comes up to us and says, hey, I want to be an actress, and what can you do for me? One of the first things that I do is that your passion, and is that what you want to do for your entire life? I mean, is that really what you want to do? Or is this just a quick little passion and it comes and goes? Just like, when you were a kid and you wanted piano lessons, you did it for 2 weeks and then you were done.
Yeah.
It can't be just a quick passion. It's got to be something that is what you want to do for the rest of your life. And if so, then you got to take the right steps in doing it. So most people can talk the talk, but can't walk the walk. So if you say that that's what you want to do, then it needs to show in your actions. So that means, are you going to move to, for example, LA? Are you going to go and get some of the best coaches? Are you going to be there and live there and live it and breathe it and go after it? And then you have to understand it's going to take you at least 5 years on average just to maybe book a job. Yeah. So are you willing to put that kind of effort and energy into it to possibly have a career? And it's tough. Over 1 million actors and actresses in LA. And that's the kind of competition that you're going up against. So again, just coming at it from an honest perspective, without trying to shy you away from it. But again, coming at it with an honest perspective and what it's going to take.
Yeah, that's great. Wow. Yeah, I could just imagine working with the women that you work with. You would be such an amazing mentor to them because of that. And you're right. And I know that in the entertainment industry, I think in any industry really, but I think it's sort of blown out of proportion in entertainment because we see that there's a big spotlight on that industry, that there is a lot of distrust and dishonesty in many ways. And so sometimes if we end up on that path, it can be really hurtful. And so it's so beneficial. And I just want to honor you and thank you for being an incredible person that is willing to give that honest feedback from a place of just deep care for the women that you work with, because it truly does shape the way that this industry of pageantry, but also the entertainment industry in general functions. And we want to have people that lift others up and that help us see the path ahead. Like grad school, when I was in grad school, I had a mentor who said many of the very same things about the industry I wanted to work in, which was education, and the same kind of thing. Look, you got to get your master's, you got to get your doctoral degree. This is not easy. It's going to take a lot of work. You got to be like the starving artist for many years while you're doing your dissertation or whatever. There is so much work. But to get to that A game, to get to the top of it, everyone's gone through that. So if you're willing to do that, then you'll rise to the top.
That's right. That's right. A good example is a person that we know. He ended up with an engineering degree, and he was working for a professional basketball team. And at a certain point, he wanted to, become one of the executives. And so he asked, "So what do I need to do to move up the ladder?" And they said, "Oh, you need to go back to school, get a law degree, and then come back." So he did exactly that. Wow. He quit as an engineer, went to law school, then came back, but he found out there was no job available. So here he did all these things and got a law degree after becoming an engineer. And then he gets back, and then they got a small part-time job. So he did that and then lived, I believe, in an apartment, in his brother's apartment on the floor.
Oh my! Wow.
So he worked at it and kept persevering. At a certain point, he ended up being a GM of a major professional basketball team.
Wow. Oh,
and to this day, he's still the GM of an NBA team.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I love stories of success like that. I truly do. It's such a cool opportunity. You have a story of success that's, I think, also very riveting Would you be willing to share that with our audience and maybe some of the greatest takeaways that you have to offer people?
Which story?
Well, I understand when I was chatting with Maureen, she said that your background, it's not like you were born into the entertainment industry.
Oh,
Am
yeah,
I
no.
right? You really had
Yeah.
to overcome a lot, and you went through a lot in your life that led you to where you are today. Could you share a bit of that?
Sure. I came from Korea, and it was at a point in time, obviously, when Korea was very poor, and I was moved from orphanage to orphanage. I was found first, and then got moved from orphanage to orphanage. And the one thing that I can remember is starving. And so, when I hear people complain in this country about this and about that, and how poor me and poor this, and I think, gosh, do you realize how good we have it in America? Even the poorest of America has better off than in other countries, most of other countries. And so, fortunately, I was adopted by a family in Oregon, and I was given tremendous opportunity to become a U.S. citizen and take opportunity to the pursuit of happiness in America. And America, honestly, is the greatest country on planet Earth, because you can go after your dreams and your goals. It takes hard work. No matter what your background is, it takes hard work. But you can go after it, and you can achieve your American dream, whatever that might be. And I was able to achieve mine. I ended up, wrestling and into college, and then I had some opportunity to work in front of the camera on some shows and commercials and movies. And I ended up ultimately ending up working behind the scenes as an agent. And then it just kind of progressed from there. And now I have the opportunity to be able to connect with lots of people to help them in their lives and in their careers, and hopefully build them up somehow, some way, breathe some life into them, to show them how incredible each and every one of them are, right? And every single person has unique DNA, only person in the history of mankind that has that kind of DNA. So, we just come up from the perspective of, what are you going to do with what you got now?
Yeah.
You could change the world. You could change history. There are four kinds of people. There are people that make things happen. There are people that watch what happens. There are people that wonder what happened. And the last group says, what the heck happened? Right? And every person belongs to one of those four groups. And the people that say, what the heck happened, are people that are mired deep in their afflictions and addictions. People that wonder what happened are usually people that don't really have any true goals in life. They kind of just wander and wander throughout life and get lost in a land of forgotten potential. And then there are people that watch things happen. And those are the people that they get that quick passion. They get in the game real quick, but they get tired and they get overwhelmed. So they want to get out and sit on the bench. Yeah. And then there are people that make things happen. And those are the people that, no matter what happens, just there's a grit inside of you that's just like, I got to do it. I got to make it. I can do it. And really, that's who you are. Every single one of you are that person. But you've got to come into agreement with that.
Mm-hmm. Wow. David, that is so good. You're right. And what you said at the end there, you've got to come into agreement with that. God has already designed us to be something spectacular beyond what we can even imagine or ask for. And yet we are responsible for agreeing with that and then stepping into it. So
Right.
True. Wow. David, it has been such a blessing. I believe that people are blessed to be a blessing. You just shared your story of being blessed, and I believe you are now blessing us. Thank you so much for being on the show today. All of the little gifts that you've given us today and all of the honest feedback. I can't wait to meet you at the expo next week. It's going to be a blast. Yes. So thank you again for being on the show today. I truly appreciate it.
All right. Thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks. Have a great time. Bye-bye.